Welcome everyone to the Library Learn X Scholastic Storytime event, your place in the world. I am so excited and thankful we can connect in this virtual space. Please let us know where you're joining us from in the chat, which I see you're doing. I'm here at home in the Garden State of New Jersey. We miss you and look forward to the day we can book talk again in person. A friendly reminder to add your questions in the chat, which we can answer towards the end of the event. I also want to take this moment to introduce and give a special shout out to our ASL interpreters, Elizabeth and Shelley. Thank you. Okay, now lean in. It's time to get cozy as we roll out the virtual red carpet to herald these three talented storytellers as they introduce their picture books coming up later this year. With each page turn, they will become a compass to let every child know that their voice matters and will serve as a powerful reminder to nourish our individuality, our home, and our planet. I'm excited to kick off our event with writer and teacher Monica Wesolowska. I'm going to say it wrong. I'm so sorry, Monica. I practice, I promise. She is making her stunning picture book debut. Leo plus Leah is a wholly unique picture book that reaches new heights in storytelling. Monica, along with rising artist Kennard Park, has done an extraordinary job of constructing a friendship story that addresses social emotional learning while also incorporating mathematical themes in text and art inspired by the Fibonacci sequence. Yes, you heard me right. With sensitivity and nuance, this delicate look at neurodiversity is sure to resonate with anyone who feels different and will spark understanding in all of us. Welcome, Monica.
Thank you so much, Lisette, and thank you to everyone at Scholastic. And thank you to Shelley for being here as an ASL interpreter. I'm so honored to be here sharing the spotlight with the amazing Christina Cernter and Andrea Davis Pinckney. And of course, I am so happy to be talking to the ALA. I love libraries and librarians. In fact, one of my very first imaginary games as a child was to play librarian. I would sit at a desk and make my younger siblings come and check out piles of books from me. So, when I had my own kids, I went to the library, filled the strollers up with books. And when they were old enough for me to go into their classrooms and help read books to kids, I did that and was assuming all kids loved stories and was amazed to meet a kid who did not. He just wanted to do math. And in fact, his need to do math was so urgent that his teacher would let him leave story time to go and do math by himself. And this really got me thinking. I wondered, what would it be like to like math more than books? And also, could I write a story that a child like him would like? And one day, inspiration struck. I thought, I'll write a story in which the words on each page follow a math pattern, and the math pattern I chose was the Fibonacci sequence. So what is the Fibonacci sequence? Why did I choose it? I write a little bit about this in the back of the book, about the history of the sequence itself. But in brief, it's really seized the popular imagination because it's a math pattern that could be found a lot in nature. So flowers often have a Fibonacci number of petals. You can find a Fibonacci number of spirals in the seeds of a sunflower. The other great thing about it for kids is that it's pretty easy to figure out. You start with 0 and 1, and you get the next number by always adding the subsequent 2. So it goes 0, 1, 1, 3, 5, 8, 13, and so on forever. In my book, I went up to 55 and then reversed and went back to 1. Now, I'm not a mathematician, so my challenge was to learn as much as I could about this sequence and then make it as simple as I could to fit a story for kids. I got the idea 13 years ago. 13 is a Fibonacci number, so I feel good about the fact that it took a Fibonacci number of years to get the idea and finish the story, get it out into the world. The biggest challenge really was to get the word count right. And I had to launch a whole story with one word. So the word I chose is Leo. Here he is, waking up for his day. And I love his, simple room here, lots of Fibonacci number of things to count. From there, I had to move to the second word of the book. I had to have another spread that is one word. So I got to the next page, which is counting. So there he is. We're not sure what he's counting, but there is one flower there. So perhaps that's what's going on. The story's launched. Where is he going? Well, on the next page, we see that he's counting more things. 2 trees, 3 noisy squirrels, and it goes on from there. So this is the action was started. So as the book goes along, you realize he's heading to school where he meets children and would rather count than interact with them. And, to write the story, I really had to get inside of Leo, and I realized I could relate to him because he felt very overwhelmed by all the noise and chaos in the playground. And like him, I would sit by myself as a child on the playground and just tell myself stories. So, but I knew that I wanted a friend back there then as well. And so I had Leah enter the story, and something really magical happens then. And I'd say that something really magical happens when Kennard Pack's illustrations meet my text as well. He was just a wonderful choice for an illustrator because his illustrations are so calm. He gives the readers a chance to count things on the page, but he doesn't overwhelm us. In the back of the book, he actually explains how he worked with the Fibonacci numbers in terms of the colors he used for the illustrations. And you can see that he goes from very restrained to more and more vibrant. So here is about midway through the book. It's a silent spread. Leo's looking over at Leah and wondering what's going on with her, what she's drawing. And then if you see a few pages on, the colors, oh, wow, they're starting to burst off of Leah's drawing pad. And then if you go a few pages further on into the book, wow, well, it's really bursting off the page. And it goes on from there. As you can see, this is the spread from the cover. So we're all so different, and our perceptions and understanding of the world is all so very different. And as a writer, I really try to push myself beyond what I fully understand and perceive. But pushing myself that way, I hope to connect to something much larger than myself. And the first time I saw these illustrations and I got to the final spread of the book, I gasped in awe. So I'm really hoping that my readers gasp in awe as well. This is a friendship story. It's also a celebration of difference and of math, but I think it's bigger than that. I think it's about our connection to the whole great mysterious universe that surrounds us. So thank you so much for reading it and sharing it with others. And with that, back to Lisette. And I'm so eager to hear from Christina and Andrea. Thanks.
Thank you, Monica. Would you pronounce your last name for me, baby, for
Sure.
all of us, my dear?
Sure. Yeah, I saw that Christina has a video of her pronunciation of her name online. I'm going to have to do that too.
Teachingbook.net. We'll make that happen.
Yeah, I say Wesolowska.
Wesolowska.
Wesolowska. Perfect. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for telling us more about Leo plus Aliyah. I can't wait people to discover this picture book. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
All right. On to our next amazing storyteller, Andrea Davis Pinckney. Her name alone in this space evokes a tremendous impact of her contribution to children's literature. She's a New York Times bestselling and multiple award-winning author of more than 50 books for young readers, many of which celebrate the heritage of African Americans. Her recent collaboration with her husband and artist Brian Pinkney is the Brightbound Baby line of board books. This rhythmic collection affirms Black joy and the tender moments shared between children and their caregivers. Andrea's newest venture shows how Americans' history can impact the next generation of young activists. Because of You, John Lewis is the true story of a boy with a dream and his true life hero. It will be the first book for children about one of America's greatest civil rights heroes and the legacy he left behind. Please welcome Andrea.
Lizette, thank you, my Scholastic sister and all my Scholastic sisters and brothers. And I'm so happy to be with you, even virtually. It's just really great to be here. So I want to go back to July 30th, the year 2020, which seems so long ago now, with everything that we've been dealing with. But on that day, like millions of Americans, people across the globe, I was glued to the television. I was watching 12-year-old Tybri Faw, a young activist from Johnson City, Tennessee, speak at the funeral of Congressman John Lewis. And we're going to roll a 2-minute CNN clip. But before we do that, I would ask that as the clip is unfolding, I would invite you to please pay careful attention to the subtitles. As you watch, it would be great if you could try to read along. I know you're all librarians, so you're great readers and you could read and do other things. So if you could watch and read, it'll give you a sense of Tybri's story and set a little context for what I'm going to talk about tonight. Okay, let's roll the tape.
This is John Lewis's favorite poem, Invictus. Out of the night that covers me, black as a pit from pole to pole, I think whatever God may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutches of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. I'm the master of my fate. I'm the captain of my soul. John Lewis was my hero and my friend. Let's honor him by getting in good trouble.
So there it is. I knew what was coming, so I came prepared with my box of Kleenex. And let me just say that when I watched that for the very first time, when I saw it unfolding in real time, my heart was beating like this soft kind of rhythmic drum. I like many of us, I was taken with just the sheer emotion and conviction and mastery with which Tybri spoke. At the same time, here was this regular kid, his voice, if you heard, was quavering. You could see kind of his moistened forehead that any of us would feel or experience if we had these hot CNN and media lights and cameras all over. And I think for me, what was so compelling is that, as the world mourned the loss of this towering civil rights hero, here was this child. He was a 10 at the time, bringing hope to a new future. And he was literally following in the footsteps of greatness. As you saw, that was the Ebenezer Baptist Church, where Martin Luther King, had served as the pastor. So what I didn't know then when I watched was that there were so many compelling details that led up to that moment of Ty Bree taking the podium. And I kept wondering, who is this child? Like, what did he do to get here? Why was he so enamored of John Lewis? What was their friendship like? Here we see this very brave, determined, sweet boy. Now, interestingly enough, at the same time, my amazing Scholastic editor, Diane Hess, who edited a book that I wrote called Martin Rising. Diane had also seen the broadcast and was also totally moved by Ty Bree. She called asking if this might be an idea for a book. The idea being, Ty Bree's admiration of John Lewis. So that soft drum that was just kind of beating as I watched that CNN broadcast, it turned into this syncopated, like, yes, this is a story I'm really interested in sharing with young people, because there are so many Ty Brees in the world who are out there just on the front lines, moving forward with social justice. So I'm really happy and delighted to present this true story of a remarkable friendship, as you saw, between Ty Bree Faw and Congressman John Lewis. The first thing I did was I plunged into research. And when you want to know about somebody, what do? You pick up the phone, which I did, and I immediately got in touch with Ty Bree's grandmothers, Lauren and Lee, who we've all gotten to know at Scholastic. They've become friends. They're part of the Scholastic family now. And I spoke to them about their grandson's activism and the role that they played in how the story unfolded. What you don't see on the CNN clip was that through a set of very serendipitous circumstances that was fostered by Ty Bree's grandmothers, he got to experience that magical moment where, he is meeting up with John Lewis. And really that moment changed the course of history. And it became especially apparent over their friendship when John Lewis invited Ty Bree to join him on his annual memorial march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge. So that was the focus. That's the focus of the book, Because of You, John Lewis. Friendship, activism, two sets of determined feet marching at the same time toward the same goal. What I also learned in my research was that Ty Bree's story mirrors that of John Lewis's childhood wish to become an activist. And John Lewis, when he was a young boy, wanted more than anything to meet Martin Luther King Jr. So their stories are so parallel in so many ways, and they overlap and entwine in the book. And this narrative comes to life about the remarkable friendship between the two of them. So for me, Because of You, John Lewis, my hope is that it says for every kid, read about Ty Bree's experience and know that, you too can turn the page on history. In essence, what this is saying is, it's because of you, Renee in Rockville, Maryland. It's because of you, Tariq in Detroit. It's because of you, Katura in Kansas City. It's because of all the kids that are out there right now on the sidewalks and streets changing the world that we can all really feel very excited about what's coming in the future. I'll just say that, in my many conversations with Ty Bree's grandmothers and in interfacing with his school community, his school librarian, his teachers, his church community, I am really struck how the adults in the lives of children can help them pave the way to their dreams. There's robust historical back matter. Thank you again to my lovely editor, Diane Hess, a timeline about John Lewis's life, a timeline with photographs of Ty Bree that are supplied by his grandmothers, images that have never been seen before they're in this book. I'll just conclude by saying that when Scholastic creative director Marika Kostu let me know that she had contacted the artist Keith Henry Brown to illustrate Because of You, John Lewis, I was thrilled. I knew of Keith's work. Keith is the creative director for New York's Jazz at Lincoln Center, but he's also been featured many times in the New York Times. He is a colossal talent. I'd like to just quickly close it out here by just running through some of the slides. If we can just go through quickly, that would be great. As you can see, I think we'll start with the cover. As you can see, Keith has brilliantly captured the essence and importance of John Lewis in that colossal, it's like you want to, you want to just have this chorus behind it. We can just move through quickly, Colin. At the same time, you can see, again, the majesty with which Keith has created these images in that opening page. There's some hidden gems that I'll let you find as readers as we move through. And one of my favorite images is that image of Tybee looking out the window. Again, we mirror the friendship. This is Bloody Sunday. Again, Keith has brought such luminosity and spirituality to the pieces. Colin, we can keep going. There it is, that moment. I love that down shot with that big shadow, saying that, this little kid is casting a very big shadow. You can see by the narrative there, which I'll read a little later, it is a poem. And this is the final image with that hug that we saw of this friendship that is still, the legacy of that is still going on today. So I'm very excited and grateful. And again, there's the cover, and I'll share more about that later. And thank you so much. I hope you enjoy it.
That's good. Still absorbing the words and the pictures and that video. It's just beautiful. There's so many, I know people in the chat, whether from afar, or we had a person who met Congressman John Lewis in person. I mean, his impact is profound and unforgettable. And I know, along with Tybee, you, Andrea, and all of us here and others, to carry on his message and goodness and good trouble makes me feel really hopeful and bright for the future. So thank you for that. And I love that Keith has joined Scholastic with. He's so talented. There's another illustration in the picture books of when they do embrace. And it's one of my favorite among others in the book. And it's very powerful and stunning in terms of also that their personal connection. Okay. Speaking of other personal connections, Christina, I like to call her Christina Cernter is a virtuoso of story. A former mechanical engineer and science educator, she's published over a dozen books exploring an amazing array of genre and topics, including our own Diary of an Ice Princess chapter book series. And this fall, Christina will make a graphic novel debut with The Tryout. So exciting. And she knows this, but I cannot continue on without giving props to Christina for setting a record for receiving 2 Newbery honors, the first time an author was recognized in a single year for fiction and nonfiction books. It's something I always want to trumpet because it's incredible. And now we're here to introduce Christina's next picture book, To Change a Planet, which is a beautiful ode to our planet and a clarion call to protect it. As evidenced by the acclaimed success, We Are Water Protectors, lucid stories about climate change are very much needed in the picture book space. This book is perfect for parents and caregivers looking to illuminate big concepts in a way that won't instill fear, but instead empower and educate young children. This is a must-have for educators and new librarians looking for a compelling science book and a beautiful story that will tie into and enrich our curriculum. Please welcome Christina.
Thank you so much, Lizette. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Although I'm really mad at you that you made me go after Andrea because, oh my gosh, I was very teary. Beautiful, beautiful. I'm so honored to be with both of these fantastic authors and so happy to be with you librarians. Next time in person. We have to be in person next time. Okay, so I'm here to talk about To Change a Planet, and I'll start off by telling you how I got inspired for the idea. So if we want to put up the first picture, and I'll get myself together. These are my daughters, and the idea for this book came to me when I was hanging out with them outside. This is one of our our favorite spots here in Austin, in Texas, we are creek rats. So we head to the creek when the weather is hot, and it's usually hot, and this is usually where we are. So if you go to the next slide, I'm sure so many of you can relate to this feeling of being in a beautiful place, being outside in nature, but it would get me thinking about how our climate is changing. And instead of being like carefree, I would worry about what that means for the places I love and the people I love. I feel like I'm feeling more and more like that now than I ever have before. And the more I would think about climate change, the more I would think about how big it is and how it just seems so inevitable and how I felt powerless to do anything about it. And if you go to the next slide. But for some reason, on this one day when I was hanging out with my kids, I don't know why, but I had this sudden thought that we got into this situation of our planet warming up by something really tiny, carbon molecules being released into the atmosphere, but tons and tons and tons of them put together was making this humongous impact. And then it hit me that this was also how we were going to solve this problem. If you go to the next slide. By something really tiny, me. But if we had me and one more person and one more person and one more and maybe many, then that would also make a humongous impact. And maybe that sounds really simple and obvious, but I really never had thought of it that way before. And when I did, all of a sudden, I didn't feel as despairing. I felt hopeful, like it was possible. And so that's when I wrote this book, and I wrote it in one big gush, and it poured out of me very much in the same form as it is in right now, which is very spare, less than 75 words, which I thought was like very spare, but now I'm looking at Monica's book and I'm like, oh, I think she did it even less words. Raheli Jamapour-Bell is our illustrator, and her illustrations are so gorgeous and rich, and they speak volumes. If we go to the next slide. I do promise you, though, that in working with my editor, Tracy Mack, each of those words was agonized over. So, this came out in one gush, and then to go back and review every single word, when you have so few, you have to make ssure each one is perfect. And with that one word there, quiet, oh my gosh, it took us weeks of going back and forth to figure out that that's the word that we should use in that one spot. And I really, really wanted to get this right, not just in the main text, but also in the back matter. And we'll just flash that up in the next slide. Because I know that kids are hearing about climate change a lot, and they're thinking about it a lot, and parents and educators want to talk about it with kids, but a lot of times they don't know where to start or exactly what to say. So this back matter is taken straight from the scientific reports of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, because that is the most reputable source of climate science information that we have. And kids deserve the very best, and they deserve the truth. And the next slide, please. So this book is truthful about climate change, but overall it's hopeful, because that's what the science says too. It says, if we work now together, we can change our planet for the better. We can alter our course for the future. And believe me, there are times when I don't feel that way. But researching for this book and preparing to go out and talk about this book with kids has really, really helped me. And the next slide, please. I've learned that one of the most important, impactful things an individual, especially in our country, can do on climate change, more than recycling, more than composting or turning off the lights, which are all important, so keep doing those things, is to talk about it. Talk about climate change to our friends and family and the people in our lives. Because when we share the things that we're passionate about, we get other people passionate about it too. And that passion, that fire is what we're all going to need to take the actions like voting. Thank you, John Lewis. Like petitioning our elected representatives that truly will change the future of our planet. And so that's my hope for this book, that it helps us all talk about this truly important issue and then take action together. One person, one person, one person, one person, all of us together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Christina, and thank you, Andrea and Monica. We're going to come to our Q&A segment. So again, you lovely people, if you have questions, please pop them in the Q&A. But I'm going to begin with my own question for each of you to answer. You talked about, some of your research and some of the challenges. I would love to hear a little more about that from each of you. I know we find that fascinating in terms of how the crafting of the story comes together. Were there any challenges going through revisions? I know, Christina, you just mentioned about choosing the right word choice and so on. I wonder if there's other things, you can mention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was challenging to try to talk about how is climate change happening in a way that I wanted this to be a book that like you could read with a preschooler, a kindergartner, and it would still keep their attention. So there's a lot of books about climate change that go into like very like detail of what's going on. And so I didn't want to go into all of this describing scientific detail until the very back. So that was challenging. But also to be accurate. So like every metaphor, every word, it can't be like, oh, it's a beautiful word, but it's not, it's like leading you in a scientifically inaccurate direction. So it had to be accurate. And also I didn't want it to be only scary or only sad. Like it needed to have an energy of feeling hopeful, feeling uplifting, because we owe that to the kids, like we can't just tell them things are bad and there's no hope. There is hope. That's what the science says. So
yeah, and I think the artist Helen did a great job of doing that. The sequential order of the little boy. I love the scene also, that one we just showed with the scarf, and it's very reminiscent of the Little Prince.
yes,
in terms of, like you saying, absorbing this for young people, young children. How it's also the story following his journey throughout the book, and that he's on alone. But I love how it just kind of, you're looking up from Earth, our planet, and then zooming in how the sequential order of the picture book follows until going through community and working together. Yeah, it's so perfectly made. So thank you, Monica, Andrea. One of you want to speak some more about research and challenges or revisions?
Sure, I can talk. The real challenge was to make it a story, and every time I made a change, I had to count. And I really spent years, not nonstop. I would put it away and come back to it, but I became obsessed with counting. And it went through many iterations before my editor, Tracy Mack, saw it. By the time she saw it, she said, oh, great. It looked like we weren't going to make many changes at all because every little change would mean so much. But because the final story was really a story rather than some explanation of the Fibonacci sequence, I didn't really know how it would be illustrated. So then that was a whole other journey. And I didn't see the illustrations for a long time because, there was a lot of iterations going back with Ken. And so then another challenge came when we actually put the words and the text together, because Ken did this amazing job of making the illustrations mysterious and natural. So like me, he hadn't used the illustrations to explain the Fibonacci sequence. So then you had us both telling a story that had emotion rather than just being a bunch of things to count. So then really, Tracy and I had to go into what Christina described, the weeks of going back and forth on a single word or moving some spreads around to make the emotional arc work. And it was quite amazing when it finally gelled and I realized I could read through the whole book and feel that mystery. And when I finally got to talk to Ken, also, he said that what he was really going for, rather than this really prescriptive explanation of math, was to show that math is all around us. It is what makes the world function. And I was so moved when I heard that, because that is really what I was trying to say in the story as well.
That's really profound in terms of math and how, it is part of our world in space. And, English major, I think a lot of us are, I wasn't very good at math. So for me, this picture book, first of all, I know it's Scholastic. We were just really stunned at the concept of this book and how brilliant, again, the pairing of the mathematical sequence and with the art and every care it took on each page, but also the love of numbers and how they connect us. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no, it was amazing for me too, because I am not a math person. I'm very number challenged. So it was amazing for me to go through this process and connect with Leo, my character. Yeah.
What a great thing for, for children who they, have different terms of learnings, but also dispelling again fear of math, because it's all good. Andrea, there is a specific question for you in the Q&A about working with Tybri.
Okay.
Can you talk more about, sorry, I'm just looking for where we, what kind of research, did you work with him at all directly, or did he inform any of the text or story? How did your relationship affect the book, the making of the book?
Yes. Okay. So I worked very closely with Tybri's family and with Tybri himself. And, you can see how he is. He's just a very humble, soft-spoken, yet articulate young man. And I wanted to capture the essence of that. So Because of You, John Lewis is a poem. And, my hope would be that people could do it as a read aloud. So I wanted to kind of capture, all my conversations with him, through his grandparents. I wanted to capture, his kind of radiance, and the musicality in his voice. And so I worked very closely and just kind of listened to him and the conversations that we had. And that really informed, and there's also a lot that his grandmothers told me that we didn't read anywhere. It wasn't anywhere in the press. So there were a lot of kind of nuanced sensory details about the 7-hour drive from Johnson City to Selma. What did they pack in the car? How did he spend time during the 7 hours? And those are the kinds of things that are woven into the story that I only could have gotten from talking to Tybri Faw. So, I always say that there should be a reality TV show about like what goes on inside like a publishing company and the interplay between an author and the editor and the artist and all of that. And in this case, young Tybri Faw, a 10-year-old child, and his grandparents and his grandmothers, and all of those voices kind of came together and helped inform and shape the narrative. So, and they're just beautiful people. They're really beautiful people.
Yes, they are. A reality publishing series.
Right.
I'm lucky. I'm living that. Very thankful. Following another question from Donna. I love this question. I think we all want to know this and provide hope for each other. But her question is about, how young children and their daily lives have been affected during the pandemic. And I think the question is, how has it affected your writing? And also, how do you keep hope alive, during this challenge time? Christina, do you want to take that, or anyone?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't, it's been hard. I have felt, down. I felt dismayed. There's so many things that just feel like they're getting piled on top of you. I feel very lucky, so grateful that the books that I'm working on, I think I gravitate to hope. I mean, all children's books, that's what we do. We're hopeful people, or we wouldn't be writing for children, I don't think. But then, the books that I have finished, have been working on, have been talking about a lot, like All 13, the book about the cave rescue, this book about climate change. I feel like in order to write about it for kids, like in order to say, kids, you should be hopeful, like I can't I can't say that if I don't believe it, because that makes me a liar. And I'm a storyteller, but I'm not a liar. So like I have to internalize it. I have to believe it, and I have to do something about it. So like I did join an activist group where we meet once a week and do 1 hour of climate change activism, because I can't go out there and say, families, kids, we have to be taking action, and I'm not doing it myself. So I think like just even as an author, having to walk my own walk and not just talk the talk has just helped me so much to keep hope alive.
It's a good balance too. Just like you said, once a week, and with a group of people. That's great advice.
Yeah.
I'll just say that, especially working with a child, on a book, I am so inspired by these young people. I mean, I live in New York City and I wake up every morning, I get out early, with my KN95 mask on, which is not a cute look, but okay, I wear it. And I see the windows in the homes and in the apartment buildings of New York. Kids have signs in those windows: Black Lives Matter, kindness spoken here. And you can tell kids have done it, by the inventive spelling and the Dayglow colors and the crayons. And, again, just interfacing with Tybri, on Zoom with our masks on. He is revved up. These kids are ready. And I also live across the street from a school. So, I would look out the window and I can tell when there's recess, and I'm like, look at those kids. They have their mask on. They're running around. They're playing. They're moving through it. And it is so inspiring. And again, I think with activism, kids are even more inspired now. And, as unpleasant as this pandemic is, I've created my own kind of gifts of COVID list. There are a lot of bad things, but there are some gifts that have come out of it. And I think one of them is that all of us, and especially children, are just even stronger and more resilient. And, these are the thought leaders of tomorrow. I love seeing in that clip, there's Kamala Harris, and there's Tybri, and he's already got his eye on that house on Pennsylvania Avenue. So anyway.
Yeah, we believe. Monica?
Yeah, sure. Well, interestingly, I think for writers, the pandemic reinforced how we do have to do our work alone. So in many ways, I felt very grateful that this is my passion, is to sit and create stories by myself. And of course, there have been so many. It's been so sad. I was volunteering over Zoom in the classrooms because I wanted to give back to my schools where I knew kids were having such a hard time. But I think one of the gifts has been the connections we're able to make across the world. As a teacher, I suddenly have students in my classroom all over the world. You have someone in Korea who's in the middle of the day, and I'm teaching a class at night. And, just those connections have been just really, illuminating and wonderful. So I do hope that's something we can carry forward, is this ability to connect with people all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing that right now. So
that's right.
Thank you. Appreciate all your answers for that. Definitely is uplifting. Well, we've come now to the most anticipated part of our program. I think Andrea mentioned a little bit about doing a reading. So you're all going to serenade us by reading aloud a little snippet excerpt from your books. We're going to start with you, Monica, for Leo and Leah. So we're going to set that up and get our slides ready. And when you're ready,
all right,
we're listening.
This is very exciting. The first reading. I can't believe it. All right. Well, here it is. Leo plus Leah by Monica Wesolowska and Kennard Pack. Leo. Counting. 2 trees. 3 noisy squirrels. 5 big steps into school. 8 new classmates shout, "Hello!" Leo smiles back. 13 raindrops tap the window one autumn afternoon, and Leo counts them all. And you can see all 13 raindrops here. And time is starting to move, which was a big challenge in the book. All right. 21 words dance across the page. Leo usually likes to count the words aloud. Leo, his teacher says, count softly, please. 34 snowflakes silently drift down the winter morning. A new girl arrives. Leo, meet Leah, his teacher says. Leo is quiet, but when Leah smiles, he leans closer to see what she is doing. Oh my, something's going on in the playground. I think Leah may be going off somewhere. And we have another 55 daisies pop up in spring, and Leo wants to count them, but the playground feels too big and hard. Balls bounce, hands clap, children cheer. As squawking birds fill the sky, Leo's numbers jumble in his mind. And so he plugs his ears and tells his teacher he is going to find some peace. And I'm going to leave you here with this amazing spread, so kind of this anchor of the book. Leo is going somewhere. We still have half a book to go, and we don't know where he's going.
That was delightful. The power to read aloud. You know, it's interesting how you infuse your own words with the wordless spread. I was doing the same in my head. My brain wanted to like pause and count every snowdrop and tap on the book. Oh, I can't wait for you guys to have this.
Yeah, I want to hold it.
All right, Andrea, you're next.
Okay. Thank you, Monica. Absolutely beautiful. So you saw some of the artwork. I think I'm just going to hold on the cover. Let me say that I just got my hot off the press copy, so that's very exciting. And I'm just going to read a little bit of Because of You, John Lewis, a snippet. As the new friends walk, they rise on the wings of every wade in the water that has crossed that bridge before and whose echo still whispers a sweet refrain. Praises be, people, praises be. Together, Ty Bree Faw and Congressman John Lewis bridge the legacy that has spanned from Jim Crow's screech to I Have a Dream to Black Lives Matter. Yes, they do. John and Ty Bree flutter up, 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 straight to the heart and soul of lift every voice and sing. Yes, they do, child. Yes, they do. There are those who believe that deep down, Congressman John knew he needed a kid with brand new shoes and sturdy laces tied tight for walking ahead, ready to take the next steps on freedom's journey, ready to follow in legacy's footsteps by leading with his own brave feet, ready to reach. When the world said goodbye to the crusader named Good Trouble, when Congressman John Robert Lewis was laid to rest, Ty Bree Faw stepped up, stood tall, spoke. Now is Ty Bree's time to celebrate the man whose past led to now. Yes, yes, Ty Bree's day has come. He is the chosen one to pay his respects while the world pays attention, to listen and learn from those still on the road. Because of you, John Lewis, I stand here today. Me, Ty Bree from Tennessee. I know that truth. Because of you, John Lewis, we shall not be moved. Because of Congressman John, we can all look to the sky. Because of Ty Bree Faw, every child can fly. Do you see it up there? The wide, wide blue. Because of you and you and you, we can lace new shoes, cross big bridges, wake up, wish, and march toward a brighter tomorrow. Thank you.
Andrea. That was wonderful. Oh my gosh, the cadence. You're such a beautiful voice. Every time I hear you read, I just want to get up. I'm ready to go.
Thank you.
To
It's
do
all
something.
Thai-Bree. It's
It is.
Thai-Bree.
It
It's
is.
Thai-Bree.
It is.
It's that
It's going
boy.
to inspire so many of us. Thank you for that. Christina, you are next, my dear.
All right. Oh, beautiful. I love hearing you both read you from your books. And so honored to be here with Andrea, master of her craft. And then such an honor to be here when Monica reads her book. That was the very first time she's read her book. And we get to be here. That's like very cool. Or any book, she's debut. Okay, I'm actually going to read from the last half of the book, the last part of the book. So I could probably read the whole thing in the time, but I can't. I'm not allowed to read the whole thing, so I'll read from the last half. Okay, so we'll go to the page. One person seems small, quiet, and insignificant, but when one person and one person and one person become many, they can change a planet. Our planet seems tough, but it is fragile. Our planet seems big, but it needs us. Our planet has spun through eons of time, but this moment is the one that matters most. For our planet, our only home. That's the final image.
Beautiful.
The little prince.
Luminous. Oh my gosh, this has been so joyful. I'm glad it's Friday, the long week, to be here in this space with you, all of you, everyone who's joining us tonight, but especially for all you authors, and thankful for all you do. I'm uplifted and comforted and hopeful. So thank you. So we have to say goodbye. I don't want to, but no, we have to. I know Emily, shout out to Emily Huddleston, my partner, my colleague and friend, for also putting this event together and sharing information. I know she gave you the great news that every one of you will receive a gift bag in March containing a copy of these books, along with some surprise goodies. So look out for that package. There's some good things coming your way from our picture books. So again, thank you all for joining us tonight. You know, through these books, we can explore our place in the world, from the interpersonal, civic, and global levels, and find that there is more that connects us than separates us. So thank you all. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy ALA. See you at the awards announcement Monday morning. Take care of each other and be safe.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.